Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to a moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Healthy Minutes segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're joined by UK fitness influencer Roger Snipes. He's an author, a podcaster, and UK's most aesthetic biohacker. He's also a fitness coach. Roger has motivated over 1.5 million followers around the world with his social media platforms. He interviews some of the world's leading experts from naturopathic medicine to entrepreneurships on his weekly podcast, The Roger Snipes Show. He's physically perfect. His body is his temple, and boy, does he show it. After relentless lockdowns, numerous COVID variants, and travel restrictions, the world finally opened up again in 2023 with in person classes, holidays, and life as we knew it pre pandemic back with a bang. It returned at what felt like 100 miles an hour. Gym classes soared in popularity, as did running events like the London Marathon in the UK and the Boston Marathon here in America. Tracked by the app Strava, we saw a 122% increase in users competing marathons last year. CMOS trended on TikTok, menopause finally became mainstream, and collagen continued to soar. Of course, it continues to soar in popularity. It took the top spot at Sephora and Ulta's most searched term of the year, with sales increasing by close to 60%. Today, Roger joins me to chat fitness, biohacking, health and wellness, and the trends he endorses. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing Roger Snipes. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction.
Absolutely. So let's start with mushrooms as the new CBD. So mushrooms are likely already on most of our radars as a next generation nutrition powerhouse. And of course, without a doubt, we're going to see them become as mainstream as CBD. I'm predicting a shroom boom. That's supplements, extracts, and mushroom derived beverages surging in popularity. Now, under the new regulations, which became official in Australia back in July of this year, approved psychiatrists can now prescribe MDMA, which is a Molly ecstasy combo for post traumatic stress disorder, and psilocybin for depression that has resisted other treatments. Are you a fan, and what do you say to this?
I'm definitely a fan. Yeah, for sure. I've tried both psilocybin and MDMA. And unfortunately, it's not something which is legal in UK. You'd have to go to other areas to get that, other parts of the world, should I say. But I think, at the moment, we have lots of prescribed medication for people who may be suffering from depression. And I feel as though things like psilocybin can come in very handy. I've recently spoken about it on my social media to ask people whether they've tried it before. But I definitely reckon that it's something that needs to be a bit more mainstream. Um, it's not something which just targets depression itself, but I reckon it opens up new avenues, helps you to think a bit more deeper, and just kind of explore yourself as a whole. I think a lot of medication which is available is too much of a shotgun approach, whereas it should be more of a throwing a net out and dealing with health and fitness on a holistic way.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, kudos to Australia. I mean, we have to point out that Australia has become the first country in the world to legalize the use of psychedelics to treat mental health conditions. And while Australia is the first country in the world to regulate these drugs as medications, clinical trials are definitely underway in the US, Canada, and Israel. So that's something to look out for. And interestingly enough, the Duchess of Sussex, she invested in a US based mushroom company. It's a coffee company called Clever back in 2020. And the functional mushroom category is now predicted to soar from 25 billion last year to 47 billion, Roger, by the year 2028. These numbers are staggering. So mushrooms, definitely something to look out for. Now, I'm going to shift a little bit. We've all likely seen on our social media feeds the flooding of women eating for hormone health. That's something I want to talk about. So the goal is simple: to educate people on the effects food and movement can have on both our hormone and energy level. And specifically, women's health is finally getting the attention it deserves. Health Tech, which is a startup It's a startup ultra human company. It's called Ultra Human. They raised $17.5 million in funding this year with the aim of reinventing fitness tech via its glucose tracking wearable to personalize our diet and exercise. What advice do you have to maintain proper hormone health?
I think, wow, with hormones, it's a very tailored approach. Um, Different lifestyles are going to affect different people in different ways, and women in particular. Um, Say, for instance, if I was to do an intermittent fast for 20 hours, it might be okay for a man, but for a woman, it's going to be very different. She's got a different balance in hormones. Um, I think a lot of people need to understand that hormones plays a key part in our lives, and there's many different types. It's not just about um, testosterone and estrogen. We've got things like ghrelin and leptin. If we don't eat enough, then perhaps ghrelin, our hunger hormone, would let us know this. And there's ways in which we can make sure that this is balanced by eating a nutritionally balanced diet. But if hormones are irregular, then it will force you to, hormones will speak to you to tell you to do things which you feel doesn't make any sense. But there's loads of things that can affect hormones, such as maybe perfumes, maybe microplastics. There's many different things. So I think it's important for each person to have like let's say a hormone test or a blood test to find out what their hormone profile is before you start to think, okay, let me try and increase my hormones. Because I think there's lots of practitioners out there that try to advocate uh, improving your hormones when you don't really know where it's sitting. It's, as I said, it's a real tailored approach where it's good to speak to maybe a functional medicine doctor or naturopathic practitioner to get a real understanding of where yours lie. It needs to be balanced all the time.
It does. And I love that you said that, that you need to consult with a functional practitioner. And to your point, if you're going to take on advising a client of yours on their hormonal health, I would assume that you would want to see their hormone profile workup, blood work before that you start just giving them a schedule. So it's good that you're taking the precautionary approach because most trainers, they just go straight into a diet plan without even knowing where the deficiencies are. So thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. I've seen that many times, like even people who might be, let's say, competing in bodybuilding. A guy who is 20 years old competing on the stage, and someone else who is, let's say, 45 years old competing, the diets are going to be very different. I've seen coaches advise extremely young guys who's going on the stage to work on increasing their testosterone, giving them testosterone supplements. But I would advise like get that checked first. Most young people, their testosterone levels are super high. Why do they need to take supplements for
Exactly.
that?
Yeah.
You know?
Now
So
let's talk syncing our circadian rhythm. So our circadian rhythm is essentially our body's internal clock, which follows a 24-hour cycle and constantly runs in the background to carry out essential day-to-day bodily functions. Now, one of my favorite nutritionists, Grace Kingswell, she raves about the importance of natural light in the morning and light blocking glasses before bed to prevent interference with our body's natural clock. Is this something that you work into your list of priorities?
absolutely. You know, it is paramount. In order for you to get deep restorative sleep, you need to make sure that you're getting the right type of light and reducing the right type of light as well. So let's say the sun emits a different ray of light throughout the day. So it's important to go out and get some natural sunlight when you can. And this helps with producing the right hormones, and it helps to stimulate serotonin. And then later, you want to have enough melatonin for when you get to sleep. Melatonin is not just good for sleep, but it's like a detoxifier as well. So it helps to remove any kind of amyloid plaque which you have in the brain. And when you go to sleep, something called the glymphatic system clears the brain of all the plaque. So you wake up and you feel refreshed and a lot better. Those who don't get enough melatonin might wake up feeling a bit groggy with headaches. So it hasn't been able to do its job properly. Before going to bed, it's important to try to block out blue light because that can affect your quality of sleep. Blue light is what makes us feel more alert and raises our beta state. We want to be more in a theta delta state when we're going to sleep. But if you don't block out blue light, as far as your body's concerned, it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's not ready to go to sleep. What tends to happen as well is if you don't block out blue light, you will start to have cravings because as far as your body is concerned,
Interesting.
it's during the afternoon. So we should be eating. We are burning lots of energy. So if you start to eat during the night, that's going to be a problem. Your
Right.
body's going to be focusing on trying to digest food and not focusing on sleep.
So true. It's all interconnected. Now, we have 3 minutes left. We're going to go into extended segment with you because we have so much to cover here. But yeah, definitely syncing our circadian rhythm can help to regulate hunger and digestion, stabilize body temperature, boost mood, improve fluid balance, and maintain other physiological processes that are extremely important. I expect to also see a boom in the popularity of sleep tracking apps because that can help you. Now, sadly, social media influencers are now the main source of health and fitness information.
Hmm.
But in 2023, we all started to question why. So just because the content is free and relatable doesn't mean it's credible. And so we've started seeing a shift away from prioritizing of style over substance. How important is doing your research as a fitness expert? Because many look to you for advice and follow your content.
Yeah, it is really important. I mean, I give a lot of information out all the time, but I always ask people to just double check for themselves. If I'm going to talk about any supplements, I will show them that I've been doing my own background research before I look into it. So I think it's an important thing to encourage others to do. But I think a lot of people are looking for others as a way of saving them time. That's the only thing. So there's a pro and a con to it. You've got the influencers or content creators, which help to piece everything together to make it easier for the person who's consuming the content to take it in more easily digestible chunks. So for instance, I might have friends who are doctors. They will give me information and I will break it down and make it easier for my viewers to take in and use
And
it on a
understand.
daily.
It's very important. I love that you simplify things. Now we have about a minute left, and this is my last question before our extended segment. And for those of you listening, our extended segment is available on our YouTube channel. You can definitely check out the rest of the interview there. Now, intermittent fasting has landed on the dieting scene as a way to cut calories without cutting your favorite foods. Now, the eating style only limits the hours you're eating rather than what you're eating, allowing you more flexibility in your weight loss plan. So if you tend to backload your calories late in the day, intermittent fasting might be a solid option for you. But then comes the big question. How do you pick a schedule that's right? So the 16-8 schedule, the 14-10 schedule, whole day fasting, alternate fasting. Talk to me. Are you a fan? And if so, how do we select the right plan? Um, or how do you select the right plan for those you train? You have about a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I would suggest to start off with a 16-8. I do intermittent fasting myself. I generally go by the way I feel. Like, for instance, for me, it's 20 minutes to 5, and I haven't eaten yet. And I'll wait until after this before I eat. I would suggest a 16-8 because that's pretty easy. And it really depends on the goal. If you're looking for weight loss, then start off with a 16-8, see how you feel, and then slowly reduce the hours to see how you do. um, Skipping breakfast is probably the easiest way. And if you don't want to be having cravings, you can have essential amino acids during that time, and that can help to protect your muscle. You could also have things like MCT, which help to break down fat during that time. and give you some more sustainable energy during that time so you don't have cravings. It really depends on the goal, though, and also the individual. As I said, men and women are very different in how they should be doing their intermittent fasting.
I love it. Yeah, well, the idea stems from our hunter-gatherer roots. It's thought that our bodies are much more adapted to fasting than we are to our esteemed 3 meals a day. And the theory suggests that our ancestors fasted often when food was scarce, causing our cells to learn how to function in a fasted state. And this is not just stuff we're making up. This is according to a 2019 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine. And thus, intermittent fasting was born. And, though research has shown improvements in insulin resistance and, more importantly, inflammation, intermittent fasting is famed for its potential effects on weight loss. To your point, we've actually been able to see that it has helped people lose 7 to 10 pounds on average over 10 weeks. And this is according to the Harvard School of Public Health. We are out of time. I will urge everybody to check out our extended segment. Thank you so much for coming on, Roger. You are amazing.
God bless you. Thank you very much for the invite.
Guys, do check out Roger Snipes, author, podcaster, UK's #1 fitness coach. You can check him out on the gram at Roger Snipes. That was our Healthy Minutes segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Healthy Minutes segment, we're continuing our conversation with our cool influencer, Roger Snipes. He's UK's #1 health fitness coach. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's talk about extended segment, and this is kind of the personal stuff. Now, I was reading that you grew up in the 80s in what most would perceive as unfortunate circumstances. And it was a crime-stricken neighborhood that you grew up in. You lived with an abusive father. You were abused not only physically, but psychologically as well. And at 17 years old, you ran away and you were homeless. You say that the way out was either suicide, which was contemplated more than once, or to flee. And your stepmother gave you shelter and helped you gain some sort of structure in your life. That's a lot to go through. What advice would you give to your younger self? And talk to me about what really motivated you to turn your life around.
Advice I'd give myself, my younger self. It's about being mentally strong. I think we all go through different stresses, and not all stress is bad. In fact, most of it is actually good for us. And I only learned this at a later time when life has set me many challenges, and I've realized that the stress which I had at the beginning of my life has turned out as almost as if it's given me a form of immunity. A lot of people who might be going through stress now, who had an easy life, might find it a bit harder. Sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Oh, I was just your advice to your younger self and what really motivated you to turn your life around.
I saw that life could have been better. As I said, as you said, I grew up in poverty. So I didn't want to have that lifestyle. And I think fitness was the only outlet for me at the time. And I just always focused on making sure that my fitness level was on top. And one day I decided to compete in a bodybuilding show, just to see if there was an opportunity out there for me. And then I end up winning the show, and then end up in a magazine, and then on national TV. And this really opened my eyes to realize that there might be an opportunity, and all it takes is to try. I learned that it's better to try and fail than fail to try. in this case, I tried and I succeeded. This enabled me to look a bit further to see what other opportunities were there. And opportunities just grew and grew. So I'd always suggest to anyone to always look at the solution, the potential solution, because if you see the solution, if you focus on the solution, you won't see the problem. If you focus on the problem, you will never see the solution. And I've always lived by that, and it's worked for me until this day.
God bless you. You are so profound. You've clearly had a tough childhood, but you know what? It clearly laid the foundation for your strength and for your perseverance, and to really show not just to yourself, but to the world, what you could really accomplish when you have passion and drive. Because when you have passion and drive, it's game over. No one can take anything away from you, because then you're focused. And what you've done throughout your life, the way that you've built your career, the way that you've garnered such a huge social media following, is because people are looking at you as a role model, Roger. They're looking at you as somebody they would love to emulate. They're looking at your life, they're looking at your body, they're looking at your mind and the way you speak, and you are a role model. So now you are affecting not just one, but millions of people. And the proof is in the progress, because you're on it. I mean,
Bless
look
you.
at your body, look at your body, right? And again, it's a fitting comment for me to make, to say, look at your body. I'm saying it in the way that you work on your body. The definition is there. You put in the hours. Sure, you look great. I mean, that's the result of having this much commitment. But it goes far beyond that, because
Yeah.
you're just not beautiful on the outside. You're beautiful on the inside. And that's very difficult to find.
God bless you. I appreciate that. I try to use almost my body as an anchor to get people to see what discipline can do for you. But then as people step a bit further in, they realize that there's a bigger foundation to building a person. There's a lot of psychological work, a lot of internal work, and understanding that building your health is very holistic. I've started to focus a bit more on spirituality as well, understanding it's not just about the physical body, but building the soul, or even understanding the soul, trying to synchronize with your soul to understand what intuition is trying to tell you. So, any times you might be feeling stressed, intuition will tell you what the real answer is. And that's going to only come through trying to build yourself up spiritually.
Amen. You said it,
Mhm.
brother. Well, we are officially out of time. Thank you so much for coming on.
God bless. Thank you very much for the invite.
Absolutely. Guys, do check out Roger Snipes, author, podcaster, UK's #1 fitness coach. You can check him out on the gram at Roger Snipes. That was our Healthy Minutes segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.